Well, welcome viewers. On the 12th of May 2026, the United States Supreme Court delivered one of the most consequential rulings in modern debate over women's sport and transgender participation. By upholding state laws in Idaho and West Virginia that restrict participation in female high school and college sports to biological women, the court affirmed that these laws do not violate either the U.S. Constitution or Title IX, the federal law prohibiting sex discrimination in education. The decision immediately became a landmark moment, influencing not only the two states involved, but potentially affecting similar legislation across more than 20 other states. It also marked another significant development in the court's recent series of decisions concerning transgender rights.
The Supreme Court has upheld state laws barring transgender girls and women from competing on high school and college sports teams in another setback for transgender rights. The court has repeatedly ruled against transgender people in the past year, and the latest ruling found that laws in Idaho and West Virginia do not violate either the Constitution or the federal law known as Title IX that bars discrimination in education. There are about 24 other Republican-led states with similar laws, and it seems likely that the decision will extend to those laws as well. Left unresolved by this decision are lawsuits in California, Connecticut, and elsewhere where transgender girls and women are allowed to compete consistent with their gender identity.
This is CBS News Special Report. I'm Tony DeCopel in New York. The Supreme Court has just ruled on one of the biggest cases of the court's current term, a case involving the constitutional rights of transgender student athletes, and specifically whether states can ban transgender athletes from playing on girls' sports teams. Transgender athletes from Idaho and West Virginia challenged those state bans, but it's bigger than just those two states. 25 other states have similar laws saying that transgender athletes can indeed participate, but only on the team that matches their biological sex at birth. So let's go to Jan Crawford, our chief legal correspondent, who's been reading through this ruling. Jan, good morning. How did they rule and on what grounds?
Well, the justices in a ruling by Justice Brett Kavanaugh are saying that states can ban transgender athletes from participating in women's sports. They're saying that these state laws, you mentioned there are 27 of them, more than half of the states have these kind of bans, that they don't violate the Constitution's Equal Protection Clause, and they do not violate Title IX, that landmark 1972 law that really leveled the playing field for girls' sports. They're saying that these states have rational reasons for wanting to have girls and boys sports teams, and that states feel free to create those teams, draw those lines however they want to draw them, including based on someone's biological sex. So this means that those state laws that now ban transgender participation will remain in place. There are two other states that do it by policy, so a total of 29 actual bans, while other states, it appears from this ruling, can continue to proceed like they always have. If they want to allow it, then they're free to go ahead and allow that kind of participation. That would be exactly how the court handled its last major transgender rights case, when last year it left it up to the states to decide whether or not they're going to ban puberty blockers and hormone treatments for minors. Now, this case appears to be focused very much on sports. Justice Kavanaugh talking about why states may want to have male and female sports, the differences in the biology of girls and boys, and potentially safety reasons. It's very focused on sports, which means it doesn't resolve the broader issues about transgender rights. For example, the status on a passport or military participation. The court is also not deciding exactly how it wants to treat transgender rights in terms of their constitutional status. Are they going to subject it to kind of a heightened discrimination like they would racial discrimination, for example? They're saving those issues, those very big issues, for another day. But again,
Yeah, Eulander is a 5-time Olympian and in the skeleton and grew up in McGregor. After the Supreme Court's ruling, she gave a quote to Fox News that reads, in part, "Today's Supreme Court ruling is inspiring because it recognizes that protecting women as a biological class is not discrimination. It affirms that fairness matters, that reality matters, and that women shouldn't have to apologize for asking for fair and safe competition. Without fairness, there is no sport." I talked with Eulander today about why she wanted to speak on this issue, and she says it's because that she knows what it's like to be cheated during competition, referring to a doping scandal involving a Russian athlete during the Sochi Olympics and these past Winter Olympic qualifiers when the Canadian team withdrew 4 athletes days before a race, reducing the field size and lowering the points available for Olympic qualification.
There are 2 things. It's one, I know what it's like to perform at your best and represent your family, your country at your best, and be cheated out of a moment. And there's nothing you can do about it. And to me, allowing men, biological men, to compete in women's sport is the same thing. Because it's not fair. And it robs women of their moment, of their safety. And if I only spoke up in an instance where it affected me directly, like competing against a man, it feels like I wouldn't be doing my duty as an American or a female athlete.
Just first of all, what's your reaction to this ruling?
I'm ecstatic. I'm so excited that this has come out. My heart is full of gratitude for the Attorney Generals and for ADF and all their work on this, and to know that no female in the 27 states that have the protection will have to compete against a male like I did and be pushed back, watch their teammates pushed off podiums. That won't happen.
When it comes to the decision here, the 3 liberal justices did concur in part. They also dissented in part, arguing that the majority had wrongly decided that trans student athletes cannot bring constitutional challenges against the state bans. How do you take that? How do you respond to that?
I think it's important to recognize what the court did rule, which is the majority. And the majority of the court ruled that under Title IX, you don't have to overhaul girls' sports in order to allow men to compete against women. Also, the majority held in the 6-3 that, again, biology is real, that it matters in sports, and that states have the right to be able to protect women and girls.
But by withholding participation for transgender athletes in states that are enacting these bans, and by the Supreme Court affirming those bans, we're risking taking away a possible family, a community, a sense of acceptance and belonging that would otherwise be found for these trans athletes.
Lena Haga is a 15-year-old trans athlete who runs high school track in Pasadena. Haga says this ruling is definitely a setback, but not the end of the conversation.
The Supreme Court can't negate my truth. I know who I am, and that's not something that they can ever take away from me. So I will continue fighting. I will continue fighting for acceptance and inclusion.
The Supreme Court also voted to uphold state laws that ban transgender girls and women from playing on girls' sports teams in school. So that means Indiana's law, which impacts transgender girls from kindergarten through college, does not violate Title IX. Indiana Governor Mike Braun did weigh in on that decision, saying, quote, "This is just common sense. Men should not be allowed to participate in women's sports, full stop." He goes on to applaud the SCOTUS on this important decision and calls it a win for Hoosier women and families.
Do you foresee the NCAA having to tweak its transgender athletes policy?
I don't think so. I mean, generally speaking, we try to establish policies for most of our programs that can hopefully have a national standard to it. I had said to folks, Democrats and Republicans in Washington, after I got this job, that we needed some sort of clarity around what the national standard for this would be. And we adopted and comply with the standard that was put forth by the Trump administration. I think what happens at the state level is a different question. Although I do think our national standard is going to be what we expect our schools to use with respect to eligibility issues for college sports. Yeah. But obviously different states will have different standards about how to deal with high school and youth sports.
You know that this has become a popular political and campaign issue, especially in Washington or out on the campaign trail. But you told Congress in late 2024 that of the 500,000 student athletes attending NCAA schools, fewer than 10 were openly transgender. Where does this issue rank in terms of the critical ones facing the NCAA?
Well, from my point of view, the most important thing about it is to have a clear policy and to have one that's consistent with federal policy, because that eliminates sort of all the gray with respect to how this should be dealt with or how it should be treated. But I can tell you that having talked to people on both sides of this issue, to those who are involved in it, it matters a lot. And I'm glad that the federal government gave us something we've been seeking for several years, which was
Supreme Court on whether states could lawfully establish eligibility rules for women's athletics competitions based on biological sex. Supporters of the law argued they were designed to preserve fairness and competitive integrity in female sport, while opponents contended they unlawfully discriminated against transgender girls and women.
Sports! Save women's sports! To every single trans youth out there who is sitting somewhere where they feel alone and isolated, we're here to tell you that you are not alone and we are fighting for you.
We're demanding here today that the Supreme Court rules in favor of reality, of common sense, and of truth.
A hot-button issue landing at the U.S. Supreme Court Tuesday as the justices consider whether states can prevent biological males from competing on girls' sports teams in public schools and colleges.
We know that biological men have physical characteristics that give them an extreme advantage on the athletic playing field.
The debate has been playing out across the country for years now over the question of whether transgender students can be barred from playing on girls' sports teams. The majority of the Supreme Court now says yes. Writing for the majority in the 6-3 ruling, Justice Brett Kavanaugh asserted, "We hold that states may maintain women's and girls' sports for biological females. They may determine eligibility for women and girls' sports based on biological sex." Two students, Becky Pepper Jackson in West Virginia and Lindsay Hecox in Idaho, had challenged their state's laws banning them from playing on girls' sports teams.
High school athletics is supposed to be about good sportsmanship, and yet somehow the people who demonstrate the exact opposite of that lesson are allowed to stay, while I'm the one being told to disappear.
All 9 justices agreed that barring transgender girls and women does not go against the federal Title IX law, which prohibits sex discrimination in education. In addition to Idaho and West Virginia, 25 states have laws banning transgender athletes from playing on girls' and women's teams. Those celebrating the ruling say the winning arguments centered on safety and competitive fairness.
In conclusion, viewers, the Supreme Court's decision represents a major constitutional milestone in the continuing debate over women's sport and transgender participation. While it establishes an important precedent, supporting the authority of states such as Idaho and West Virginia to regulate school athletics on the basis of biological sex. But it does not end the broader national discussion. Ongoing litigation, differing state policies, and future legal challenges mean the intersection of fairness, inclusion, and civil rights will likely remain one of the most closely watched constitutional issues in American public life. For me as a male, I'm pretty sure I'm a male. I am a male, according to what the Bible says. According to the one that made me, and all that aside, I just don't think biological men need to compete in women's sport. What's the big need? Women have said to these men, this is what they've said: you can have everything you want if you want to be a woman. You can have everything you want, but stay out of our spaces. But the transgenderists have gone, we want the lot. And that's been the problem. If they want to do sport amongst yourselves. Men competing against men. It's all part of a wicked construct. These people do not belong in women's competitive sports or spaces. But this is where it all falls over. I'll see you on the next one.
You promised, son, but
still love what you do to me. The highest highs, the lowest lows. You take me to every extreme. Can't get enough, please let me be. But I love what you do to me. From me, and then you touch, I feel so much. I just love what you do to me. I love what you do to me.